Good morning, students. I welcome you all to this session for Paper 8, Indirect Tax Laws. I am CA Shefali Jain. I am a faculty at Board of Studies. And in today's session of BoS For Your Success for Paper 8, we have with us the Chairman, GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, Central Council Member CA P. Rajendra Kumarji. And we are privileged, sir, to have you with us today. Because I think students will be immensely benefited from your experience in this subject. Sir has an experience in GST and customs. He has a vast experience in this area, and he has been chairman for GST and Indirect Tax Committee for past 3 years. He has been helping our members also in this area. So students, you are very much privileged today that you have got, we are having sir in this session with us. So sir, without any delay, I will hand over the session to you so that students get the maximum benefit from your ideas and your inputs. Hand over to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, CA Shefali Jain, Madam, of the Board of Studies, who is handling the indirect tax paper. In fact, esteemed students who are all joined this session, who are going to write the examinations in the month of November, let me first of all wish you all the best. I am confident all of you would have completed your one round of preparations and will be concentrating on the next round. And by attending these coaching classes, which the ICAI Board of Studies is organizing for you online, I am confident that all of you will be immensely benefited. All of you will also get an insight of how this particular system works and what are the areas you must concentrate upon in the current examinations. In fact, Shefali told you about me very briefly, but let me also tell you, just to build a confidence in you, that what is this subject about. As a chartered accountant, I have been in the practice of indirect taxes per se only since 1999. So it is almost now how many years? 23, 24 years? 23, 24 years I have been practicing this subject. Just a moment. I'm sorry, there was a small disturbance. So as I was telling you, since 1999, I have been practicing this subject of indirect taxes only. The first paper on indirect taxes in the ICAI was, I think, in November 1996 or maybe in May 1996. You remember, Shefali, which was the month?
Sir, I don't exactly remember.
I think it is May 96. It is May 96 or November 96.
After the introduction of service tax, probably, sir.
Yeah, service was, yes, exactly. But in 1995, May, I passed the CA examinations, which means I never wrote any paper on indirect taxes in the CA examinations, and never did I get to read the subject of indirect taxes for any exam in that case. Which means since 1999, I have been practicing this subject, and the strong foundation which I got during my articleship days, that motivated me, that instilled a confidence in me that yes, this is the subject of my interest. And this subject is so interesting, it seems, very dear students, that it keeps your mind always active. Before joining this session, I was just talking to CA Shefali Jain about how you handle this subject. Because it is prone to so many changes. And when you continuously read, when you continuously update, your mind is always active. And your mind is active, you're always young. And this subject will always keep you young. And this is the most easiest subject in the CA indirect taxes to pass, or the CA final examinations to pass and to get excellent marks. I have to tell you here that it is very easy to get 100 in this paper. How you can ask me? My own articles, CA Krishna, he scored 97% in this paper in November 2015 examinations. He holds the record for scoring highest mark ever in this paper. That is the greatest credit an article assistant can give to his principal.
True, sir.
So it is easy for you students to score marks in this paper. And especially today, you know, all your office work, that is GST. Those days, no CAs used to do indirect taxes prior to introduction of GST. Now, all of them are doing indirect taxes. You will be filing your returns also, and your entire question paper, you can answer if you have filed a return on GST in your office. And the study material which the institute gives you, concentrate on that. Read certain sections from the Act. Don't go by the manuals which you get outside. And those are all sufficient. Yes, it is required. But read the provisions. For example, read section 16, section 17 of the CGST Act, input tax credit, and the relevant rules. And note down the important changes that have taken place. So that these are the probable questions which you may get in the examination, because a chartered accountant should always be current. So changes that are applicable to you may be asked. You must all of you should be extremely thorough on that. Read section 7, read section 8, read section 9. So these sections will give you enormous grip on the subject. And go through thoroughly all the GST returns. All the GST returns. Whether you have filed, not filed, which will give you an insight on the entire Act and the rules. If there is a column where you need to fill up a reverse charge related applicability, you will go to the sections 9.3 and 9.4. You will be able to know, read, and appreciate what is that particular column asking in the return. So follow the pattern of return. Before you appear for the examination, maybe before your exam starts, 1 week before, take up all the returns, have a fair look at that, which column is asking what, and then you'll be able to comfortably steer through your examinations. Each and every step, there is a marking in the institute. All of you may know that. Don't leave even a single step. Don't jump from one step to another step. Try to answer the question in full. Even if you are not able to complete, you feel that there is less time, jump to the next question. Because at least a question which carries 8 marks, you've written something, you'll be able to get 5 marks, isn't it? Your final answer doesn't count here. And don't worry, no one is going to ask you, what is a section? Is it section 17, 5A, B, etc.? No. Sections, numbers, and rule numbers in an examination paper are just like an ornament on your body. It can only add color. It can only give you grace. It can only beautify you. That's all. The paper is important. In a human body, the body is important. It is not the gold chain that you wear or the ring that you wear, nothing. These are all ornaments. So the section numbers and rule numbers are ornaments. No one is going to give you extra mark because you have quoted a section, unless the question is asked, which will not be asked. I have not seen a question in my lifetime like that. What is the section number of input tax credit in CGST? No one is going to ask you. Ensure that you write your paper in full. Someone comes and asks me, sir, if I don't write the compulsory question, I am told my paper will not be valued. It's a joke. It's a rumor. No, sir, if I don't answer the compulsory question first, the examiner gets a feeling that this fellow does not know anything, so I'm not going to value his paper properly. Why? You answer last also. Who is asking you to answer first? No, examiner does not know you. We do not know the examiner. It goes down to 1 to 2 rounds of check your question. Your answer paper goes in valuation. So be confident of what you are writing. Read thoroughly. Read the institute's study material. Many people miss out on that. Instead of reading institute study material, see each and every study material. On the top, it will be written applicable for May 22 examination, applicable for May 23 examination, applicable for November 22 examination, like that. 2 examination, November 22, May 22. This study material you read, that is sufficient. More than enough. This will help you in your examination process. Friends, wishing you all the best. God bless you. Be confident. Ensure that you give your fullest in the forthcoming examinations. And yes, all of you will certainly succeed in these exams. But the biggest of the exam is your life. Ensure that you succeed in your life. Be confident at all times. Never at one time be depressed. Why it has happened to me? Things will happen, things will go. Even this moment will pass over. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your motivating words and valuable inputs. In fact, you very rightly emphasized on the importance of reading Bare Act to the students. As we all know that many students skip on that point, and you stressed upon the dynamic nature of our subject and being the subject where students can score 100 marks. So now definitely many students will target for it that they should score 100 marks in this paper. They should try scoring 100 marks in this paper. And the time management point which you tell, that sometimes students have this misconception that compulsory question has to be attempted, otherwise paper will not be evaluated. So such type of misconceptions, you should stay away from it. And please read the guidelines which are given, or the instructions which are given to you on the admit card, because they are the instructions which are provided by the institute. Don't rely on any other inputs or sources. They are the Bible or guidelines for you for the examination. So please follow them. So with this, we will have a change in platform from this platform. We'll have a change in platform. We'll have a break for 5 minutes, and after that, we'll join in the next platform. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for benefiting the students through your valuable inputs. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
I once again welcome you all to this session after the break. So now we'll start with the session for this paper, Indirect Tax Laws, as Sir has already stressed upon the importance of this paper as well as how you can score well in this paper, and this can be one of the papers which leads you to your success in group 2. So let us start that, because you know that indirect tax laws is a very dynamic subject, and with the advent of GST in 2017, the significance of the subject has altogether increased, because it subsumed all the erstwhile indirect tax significant indirect tax laws, namely central excise, service tax, VAT. So with the integration of all these tax laws, we got GST, and the aim was to simplify the tax structure. But since the tax is at the nascent stage, so there are a lot many challenges, and the amendments taking place throughout the year, throughout this period of 5 years since the introduction of GST, we have seen lot many changes happening in the law. And as a student of chartered accountancy course, you all are expected to be continuously updated with these amendments. You all are expected to be aware of the current position of law which is applicable for your examination. So this is very important, that because sometimes students feel that they should know everything which is happening on a day-to-day basis, but since we know that there are limitations to your reading also, and you cannot be updated on a day-to-day basis. So cutoff date we have kept 6 months before the examination, that I will apprise you during the course of this session. But first of all, let me tell you that you know that this paper has two parts. Part 1 is goods and services tax, GST, and part 2 is customs and FTP. So part 1 has a weightage of 75 marks, and part 2 customs has a weightage of 25 marks. GST has a weightage of 75 marks. So the position of law on which the questions need to be answered in this particular exam for November 2022. In case of GST, whatever amendments have been made effective via Finance Act 2021 in the CGST Act as well as IGST Act up to 30th April 2022, because you know that under GST law, the amendments made by the Finance Act 2000, Finance Acts, the relevant Finance Acts every year, they don't get effective with the passing of the Finance Act or the enactment of the Finance Act every year. They get effective afterwards when it is ratified by the states, all the states, then they start becoming effective. So whatever amendments made by Finance Act 2021 have become effective up to 30th April 2022. So remember this date very clearly. 30th April 2022 is the relevant cutoff date for November 2022 examination. So you should know all the amendments which have been made effective either by Finance Act 2021 or by the notification circulars. And these notifications and circulars which are relevant for you have been compiled in the form of the statutory update, and they have been web hosted. So we will be telling all these things you in detail. This is just an idea that when you are asked any question in exam and there is a change in position of law in the preceding period for that particular examination preceding to 30th April 2022, then whatever is the position of law which prevails on 30th April 2022, on that basis you should answer in the examination for GST law as well as for the customs and FTP also. Whatever the Finance Act, whatever are the amendments made by Finance Act 2021, customs law as updated by Finance Act 2021, and notifications and circulars issued till 30th April 2022 will be relevant for November 2022 examination, and students are expected to answer their questions on the basis of this position of law only. Then the next point is, what is the you know that in this paper there are MCQs as well as there are descriptive questions. So 30 marks paper is on, in the entire 100 marks, 30% or 30 marks paper is of MCQs. That is division 1. Division A, division B is of the descriptive portion, and that comprises of 70% of the total paper. So 30 marks MCQs will be asked and 70 marks descriptive questions will be asked. And you know that there is no negative marking in the MCQ based questions. You do not need to provide any reasoning for the MCQ based questions. So you only need to thoroughly revise your concepts. You should apply your concepts in the MCQ based questions, and on the basis of that you should derive the answer. Because that becomes very scoring, and that takes less time also when you know that you do not need to mention the reasoning for the MCQs and there is no negative marking. So that in itself makes the MCQ portion more scoring and more lucrative for the students. So focus, educate emphasis to the MCQ portion. 70 marks will be descriptive portion. So if we see for GST portion, which comprises of 75 marks, 25 marks paper is of the MCQs and 50 marks paper is the descriptive portion. Similarly, for customs portion, out of 25 marks, the 5 marks is for the MCQs and rest of the 20 marks is for the descriptive portion. So this is the breakup. Now the relevant study material which is applicable for your examination. The relevant study material is the study material of October 2021 edition, and it has 4 modules. The study material has 4 modules. Module 1, 2 and 3 are of GST, goods and services tax, and module 4 is of customs and FTP. So all 4 modules are relevant for you, as sir has already stressed upon the importance or significance of going through the study material, reading the relevant and applicable study material for your attempt. That is very important. So for November 2022 examination, October 2021 edition of the study material is relevant. In this study material, amendments up to 30th April 2021 are compiled and incorporated. And then afterwards, the 1-year amendments for the intervening period, because you know that the applicable position of law for you is 30th April 2022. So the amendments for the intervening period are important for you, and they have been compiled in the form of the statutory update, and they have been web hosted. So you need to refer the study material along with the statutory update. If you see the statutory update, it has been chapterized, and the amendments have been categorized into various chapters corresponding to the study material. Why it has been done so? So that when you see the study material and you open the statutory update, you can go chapter by chapter and you can see the amendments which are there in that particular chapter. These amendments are very important from the examination point of view, so you should definitely go thoroughly through them. And all these amendments you should do with the chapter. When you are doing the amendment, should be done side by side. Then after that, after doing the chapter, once again you should go through the amendments, because sometimes the questions based on examining the stat updates are asked in the examination. So you should be very thorough with the amendments which have taken place in each of the chapters, and questions also need to be solved accordingly. So any amendment is there in any of the chapters, then the questions given in test your knowledge portion should accordingly be modified. Then comes the MCQ and case scenario booklet. So MCQ and case scenario booklet January 2022 edition, which contains the independent MCQs as well as the case scenarios pertaining to the subject of indirect tax laws, is relevant for November 2022 examination. So you are advised to work out each and every question from this booklet. On your own, you should attempt all those questions, and then you should see the answer, whether you have arrived at the correct answer or not. Or if not, then you should once again think about it and you should try to solve the questions. Instead of straight away seeing the solution or looking for the solution for that particular question. This is true for all the questions, either descriptive or MCQs. If you are attempting any question, then do not see the answer to that particular question. Only first of all, try to solve that particular question on your own on the basis of your understanding of the provisions of law. Then see wherever the deviation is there in your answer. If it is the deviation is there, then see where the deviation is there from the solution. And those are the areas, those are the weak areas where you need to stress upon when you are doing that chapter again, or those are the concepts where you lack clarity, where you need to go through again, which the concepts which you need to focus more. Because otherwise, if you see the solution directly after seeing the question, you will never be able to zero down the areas where you need more clarity, where you need more focus, the areas which you need to do in a better manner, or the areas where you need to improvise upon. So for that purpose, what you should do is you should see the question, you should attempt that question on your own, and then you should see if any difference is there in the answer, then what is the area where you are lacking, and what is the basic you can say the concepts which you need to improvise upon. Moreover, we have come up with the RTP, and for November 2022 examination, you should see that RTP, you should solve the questions of the RTP once you are thorough with all the concepts of the this particular subject. Then you should try to attempt the RTP. And in fact, after these webinars, There will be a series of mock test paper which will be conducted. It will be starting soon after these webinars, and you should attempt all those mock test papers. Try attempting those mock test papers in exam like conditions, and then you see the solution, where, because that gives you an idea, as I already told you, that gives you an idea that which are the areas you need to focus, what are the your uh, deficiencies while attempting the paper. Either you're not able to present your answer, or you feel that you need to, time management is not proper, you need to devote more time, or you need to increase your speed while solving the question paper. So all those things will come into light only when you try to attempt a mock test paper, because mock test paper gives you the exact exam like feeling when you are doing these questions, without you are doing these questions while practicing the concepts. Then you may feel that yes, you are able to do them, but when you try to do them within the stipulated time of 3 hours, and those stipulated number of questions you know that you have to complete, then you come to know that yes, which are the areas where you are lacking, or which are the points which you need to keep in mind, or you need to increase your speed. All those points you will come to know only when you try to attempt your paper in the exam like conditions, and this can be done only through the mock test paper. Now we come to the very important aspect of this paper, and that is the section wise and skill wise weightage for this paper. Many a times we get this query from the students that what is the important topic for these paper. In fact, this question is asked for every subject, that because students want to know that if the important topics for any paper, and this is a tendency, this is our tendency right from our childhood. In every paper we want to know the important topics, so there is no harm in your inquisitiveness for knowing the important topics. But since chartered accountancy course is a course where you need to do each and everything very thoroughly, selective study is not at all recommended for the chartered accountancy course. So you should do all the topics thoroughly. Only thing is that we come out with the section wise weightage. And this weightage is there on the website. It is hosted on the BoS knowledge portal for all the subjects. So this section wise weightage can help you in understanding that yes, these are the sections which have a higher weightage or highest weightage in the entire paper. So these are the areas where we should focus upon. So without wasting any time, we should let us focus on it. Let us see the section wise weightage for this paper, paper 8. First part is part 1, GST, goods and services tax. It carries 75 marks, and this has the this part, or this section of goods and services tax, it has 4 sections. So entire syllabus is divided into 4 sections, as you can see from this PPT. Now, which is the section which carries the maximum weightage? This is section 1. Section 1 contains the substantive provisions of law. Substantive provisions, when I say, it means the core provisions or the core concepts on the basis of which you develop the understanding of the law. So when the provisions which give you the basic understanding of the law are the substantive provisions, and when you apply those provisions, or when you execute those provisions to compute the liability, or you to make the payment, registration, all those provisions are the procedural aspects of the law. So this section 1 comprises of the substantive provisions. Now under GST law, what are the substantive provisions? Substantive provisions comprises of supply, levy, then the reverse charge provisions, charge of tax. Charge of tax includes reverse charge, exemption, then value of supply, time of supply, place of supply. Last but not least, the input tax credit. And by applying all these concepts, all these provisions, what we are able to do is we are able to compute the net GST liability. So all these provisions together comprises of section 1, or all these provisions are contained in section 1. See the weightage of section 1. The range which is given to you, as you all of you can see from the PPT, is 45 to 65%. So almost 50%, near to 60, minimum weightage is almost near to 50%. So half of the paper will be on these provisions only. So you can see that how significant these provisions are. So in a way, it gains significance. These topics automatically gain significance. And why this weightage has been kept? Because you know that unless you do not know these core concepts, unless you are not thorough with these core concepts, you will not be able to arrive at the GST liability. You will not be able to proceed further in this tax law. So these are the provisions you should focus more on. First of all, you should be thorough with this. And believe me, if once you are thorough with these provisions, once you have done these concepts thoroughly, then you will not find any problem in doing rest of the concepts. So when I say you are doing supply chapter, so supply chapter, that means you have to do each and every definition of supply, definition which are given in the chapter of supply. Either it's a definition of the family or related person, or the definition of person itself or body corporate. All these definitions you have to do thoroughly. Then afterwards, the definition of supply contained in section 7, that has to be done thoroughly. All the three schedules, each and every inclusion, exclusion in those schedules, that have to be done. Moreover, we have to see the composite and mixed supply. That is also the concept of composite and mixed supply is equally relevant, equally important. Charge of tax when you are doing. Then all the definitions of intrastate supply, supply in territorial waters, with the application, with the co-joint reading of the place of supply provisions. So that gives you an overall understanding of the concepts. Reverse charge notification. Now, reverse charge notification, I will tell you later on also when we'll be doing the study guidelines. Reverse charge provisions only for services are relevant to you. For goods, it is not relevant. Not relevant, that means I say that it is not a part of your syllabus, that has been excluded by way of the study guidelines. Similarly, exemptions. Exemptions also for goods, the exemption for goods is not a part of your syllabus. Exemption for services is only what is covered in your syllabus. Then time of supply, value of supply, input tax credit, again, all these provisions are very important. So you should focus more on these chapters. Then comes the second section. Second section, if you see, is more of a procedural part. It contains registration, tax invoice, e-way bill, accounts and records, then return, payment, job work, and TDS, TCS provisions, refund provisions, then liability to pay in certain cases. So all these provisions have a weightage of 10 to 30%. So it automatically tells you that which are the sections you need to focus more, which are the sections where you need to focus comparatively less, and how you have to go about these sections. Third section mainly comprises of the enforcement provisions, offenses and penalty, demand and recovery, advance ruling, and appeals and revision. So this is third section, which comprises of 10 to 25% weightage. And last section is the section of which has the lowest weightage in our section wise weightage, that is the introduction to GST, administration, assessment audit, inspection, search, seizure, and the remaining miscellaneous provisions, that is the other provisions. So this is all about the GST law. So you know that substantive provisions are most important in the GST law, and you have to focus more on them. Second is the customs and FTP portion. Now, part 2 is customs and FTP, again important because it also has a weightage of 25 marks in your entire paper. In this portion also, or in this part also, if you see, the maximum weightage is carried by section 1. Let us see how many sections are there in this part. Section 1, 2 and 3. There are overall 3 sections in this section, in this part of customs and FTP. Here also maximum weightage is carried out or contained by section 1, that is 40 to 60%. So again, almost near to 1/3 or more than 1/3 of the paper will be from section 1 minimum. This is the minimum weightage, 40%. So it again contains all the substantive provisions, the levy of custom duties, types of custom duties, then classification provisions, valuation provisions, valuation of import goods and export goods. So all this is covered in section 1, and this is the most important section of the customs portion. So first of all, you should be thorough with these provisions. This is the section where you need to focus more. This will definitely help. Knowing these things will definitely help you in fetching more marks in the examination, because here you know that yes, these are the areas where I need to focus more upon. And then the second section, that is the basically the procedural section. So procedural aspects carries the 20 to 45% of weightage. So again, it is not, it carries quite a significant weightage out of the total portion. The chapters here covered are the import and export procedures, including the baggage provisions, then the goods imported by export, post or stores, warehousing provisions, then duty drawback is there. In foreign trade policy, the basic concepts of foreign trade policy are there. Then refund provisions are there. So these all procedural aspects are covered in section 2. And section 3 has the introduction to the customs law and the foreign trade policy, in section 2, just a correction to be made. In section 2, the foreign trade policy, the export schemes are covered. So whatever schemes we have, the RODTEP, then advance authorization, DFIA, all these schemes are covered in Section 2, and the basic concepts of the foreign trade policy are there in Section 3, as well as the basic concepts of the customs law. So this section has 10 to 20% of the weightage in the entire customs law. Now we come to the this is the skill wise weightage. Now the skill wise weightage I will not go through in detail. You can see it from the website also, which is there to you, provided to you. Only thing I would stress upon here is that we have three kinds of skills on which the students are tested under final examination. One is the comprehension and knowledge, another is application and analysis, and third one is evaluation and synthesis. Now what is the comprehension analysis is that on the basis of understanding of the provisions of law, you have to enumerate those provisions in the questions. Application and analysis is that you have to apply those provisions into simpler situations and then you have to arrive at a conclusion. Then comes the higher order skill of evaluation and synthesis, which requires the application of more than two provisions. In the exam conditions, you are given a complete 14 marks question, and this particular skill is tested only for GST law. So for customs, you will not have any evaluation and synthesis skill based question. You will have evaluation and synthesis skill based question only pertaining to GST, because the weightage of GST is more and we want students to be proficient in GST provisions. They should be able to answer the higher order skill questions for the GST. And if you see the first question which is there in your examination is a 14 marks integrated question. So it has an integration of all the substantive provisions of GST, and applying all those provisions in one question, then only you will be able to arrive at the right answer. So this again emphasizes the importance or significance of section 1 of the GST law, which has been given in your section wise weightage. And this section is the section from where you will be, this is GST law only, you will be tested the evaluation and synthesis based skills. So higher order skills are tested in evaluation and synthesis based questions only. The weightage is 15 to 25% of the entire GST portion. Similar weightage is there for customs and FTP also, skill wise weightage, and in that case evaluation and synthesis skill will not be there. You can refer that specifically from the website also, because we are now moving to the study guidelines. What are study guidelines? Study guidelines are the topics of the syllabus which we have excluded from your syllabus for the examination point of view, considering their complexity, considering their relevance for the examination, or the type of retention which is required for them, and maybe you can go through the schedules instead of retaining those provisions. So we have excluded them from your syllabus and they are done by the way of study guidelines. So if you see that, just to tell you the some of the important significant things is the rate of goods and services that has been excluded from the study guide by way of study guidelines from your syllabus. So rate of goods or services. So for services also you need not remember the rate notification or the rates which are given in the rate notification, that is particularly notification by 11 by 2017. For goods also any rates are given, they will be given to you in the question itself. You must have seen in the past year papers also, RTPs also, that all the rates are given to you in the RTP itself. So then so that is excluded from the syllabus. Then the reverse charge notification. The reverse charge notification is in case of reverse charge for goods it is excluded. For services it is very much part of your syllabus. So you should know that in which of these services reverse charge mechanism is applicable, but for goods it is not there. Similarly, as I already told you, for exemptions also, exemption from services is there in your syllabus, but exemption from goods is not part of your syllabus. In case of input tax credit, the input tax credit with respect provisions pertaining to the real estate projects. Now that is again very complex and we have tried to keep them out of the purview of your syllabus for your examination. They are not relevant. Similarly, reversal provisions with respect to gold door bar, that is also not relevant for your examination. GSTR 2, 1A, 3, reversal provisions, matching concepts, all these provisions which never came into existence, which were proposed in the initial law. So they have been excluded by way of study guidelines. And last but not least is the transitional provisions. It's because transitional provisions, they were limited to they were restricted to a limited period only. Their applicability was limited to a limited period. So that is why we have excluded all those topics from your syllabus, and for examination point of view, these provisions are not applicable. So it is very interesting to know that is something which you do not have to do for the examination. This you should know first of all. You should never try to enter into those areas, at least for examination point of view. For your interest, for your knowledge purpose, you can definitely see them, but for examination, definitely you should know that they are not relevant. Now we come to the next is the customs portion. So what are the topics which are excluded from the customs? If you see those topics, have a glance at these topics, you will find that these topics are not there in the study itself. We have not included these topics in the study material, but yes, they are part of your syllabus, and we have excluded these topics from your customs portion of 25 marks. So these are officers of customs appointment, then provisions relating to coastal goods or demand and recovery provisions, then search and seizure, appeals provisions, advanced ruling settlement commission, illegal import export, and remaining miscellaneous provisions. So all these provisions have been completely excluded from the syllabus, and they do not form part of the study material also. If you remember that warehousing provisions have been included, um, because earlier they were also excluded, warehousing provisions, but considering their linkage with other topics and for overall understanding of the customs law, warehousing provisions have again been reinstated in your syllabus, and the chapter of warehousing has also been reinstated. So you can refer that chapter from the study material. Now we come to the question paper. So what is, because many a times the students ask us that what is the question paper? What is the pattern of the question paper? So what type of questions are asked, or what is the compulsory question comprises of? So for that, I will let you know that in case of the in case of this paper 8, you will see that first of all, I already told you that 30% is MCQs and 70% is descriptive, and out of that also in MCQs 25 plus 5 is the breakup, and in descriptive also 50 plus 20 is the breakup. Now, what is the pattern of the question paper? So in question paper, if you must have seen the last year paper, then you would notice that first question is a compulsory question. This is a question which tests your evaluation and synthesis skills. As I already told you that evaluation and synthesis skill is a higher order skill. It contains an integration of all the provisions, integration of more than two to three provisions. It will have an integration of many provisions, and you have to apply all of them at the same time, and then you can arrive at the correct conclusion. So this is it itself increases the significance of this particular question and the preparedness which you need to have for this particular question. So where you can practice this question? Because I will be covering everything when I'm telling you about a particular question. So when I say evaluation and synthesis question is the first compulsory question, and since it is a compulsory question, so you cannot leave this particular type of question. So you have to have an adequate practice for this type of questions. So if you see the test your knowledge portion of your study material, and particularly in the chapter of input tax credit, because generally when you have to arrive at the net GST payable or the net GST liability, so you need the understanding of all the preceding concepts, then only you will be able to arrive at the net GST payable. So for that, the questions have been given in this particular chapter in test your knowledge portion, and you need to attempt those questions on your own. You can see past RTPs, but if you see the past RTPs, then you have to be very cautious that there would be changes or there would be amendments which would have taken place afterwards, and you have to take care of those amendments. Similarly, the mock test papers also, if you want to attempt the past mock test papers or suggested answers you want to see, then you have to be very careful about the amendments which have taken place after the publishing of that particular RTP suggested or mock test paper. So you can see them. But this chapter ITC, test your knowledge portion, we have given quite a number of questions which you can practice because they're very big questions. So it will take time to you for attempting those questions, and don't see the answers, otherwise it will make a wasteful exercise. It will become a wasteful exercise to attempt those questions. So you should see the question, try attempting those questions. If you do not want to do it very properly, then just write the amounts, make the tables, and just write the amounts roughly in a table and arrive at the correct conclusion. So that will help you in understanding the provisions of that particular this type of questions, that how these questions have to be attempted. In fact, we'll be taking one such type of question today, which has been given in the revision test paper, and those questions, this question will help you in understanding. Because main focus in I will be focusing on how you need to approach that particular question and what are the points you need to keep in mind while attempting these type of questions, because most of the students, they find it very difficult when it comes to arriving at the correct answer in question 1, that is the compulsory question. They generally commit mistake in some or the other portion. So that I will be stressing upon, that yes, these are the points you need to keep in mind in attempting question 1. My focus today will be on question 1, this evaluation and synthesis question only, and some other points which you need to keep in mind while attempting the paper, the general mistakes which a student commits while attempting the paper, points you need to keep in mind while doing the paper, time management, and all these things we'll be covering in today's session. So this is the first compulsory question which I told you. After that, this is about GST, that in GST portion, first compulsory question, because first compulsory question of 14 marks pertains only to GST. Now, rest of the questions in the entire paper there will be 5 questions. Out of that, 4 have to be attempted. Every question will carry again 14 marks. Out of this 14 marks, 9 marks are allocated to GST and 5 marks are allocated to customs. So you can see that out of now again 14 marks for GST is compulsory and 36 marks for GST is optional. That means you will get a choice of one question in GST and one question in customs. So 14 plus 36, again it becomes 50. In case of the customs, it is, since the compulsory question is not there in customs, you will have 5 questions, out of which there will be choice of one question, 5 marks each. That means 20 out of 25 marks you have to attempt 20 marks question. So that will be for customs. So this is the pattern of the question paper. I would suggest that you should keep separate time for the descriptive as well as the MCQ portion. If you feel that you are very good at attempting the MCQs, you can save time on MCQs. So I would suggest that you should do first of all MCQs. It will take you, and the time which you should devote for MCQs is roughly around 40 to 45 minutes. That would be the maximum time, because there you do not have to write any reasoning. You do not have to do the working, the proper working for arriving at the answers. You should know the provision. You have to apply the provision and arrive at the answer. So that there you can save some time which you can devote for answering the descriptive questions, because there you have to give elaborate reasoning, you have to give proper format, you have to make the tables, you have to present your answer properly. So try to take out some time from the MCQ portion and devote it to the descriptive portion, and MCQ portion should approximately be covered in 40 to 45 minutes. So this is about the pattern of the question paper. And before we come to the time management, let us see if we have any queries. We have received in fact, feedback from Sumit Jain. He says that he attended the mock test counseling session for May 2022 and he passed his second group and he got 66 marks in IDT. So congratulations, Sumit. We are very happy to know that these counseling sessions which we conducted in May, for May attempt also, they helped you so much. So we are very happy to know that, and we always get these type of feedback from the students where they get benefit from these classes. Your live coaching classes also, they are very immensely beneficial for these students. So you should definitely take benefit from these classes. And Saurabh Sarkar is saying that he wants to have a discussion on the place of supply, where one person is outside India, one person is in India, either recipient or supplier is in India. So Saurabh will try to cover these provisions because we have a class tomorrow also. So if possible, we'll try covering them in short because we have other things also to cover. Definitely we'll cover these provisions which you want to know. Focus more is in these sessions is to know that the areas where you commit mistakes and the areas which you need to focus while attempting your paper. Regarding the time management in the examination, so for the time management, I would say that you get 15 minutes reading time in your examination. So while attempting when you get the paper reading for the reading during the reading time, 15 minutes before the examination, before the start of the paper. So in that time, what you should do is you should give a glance to all the questions, because tax paper is a paper where you cannot go through each and every question thoroughly. It will take your entire time. In one question will take your all the time of 15 minutes. So what you should do is you should read you should have a glance at all the questions. Compulsory question, anyhow, you have to do it. So if you don't see that question, then also it will be fine, but you can have a glance. Maybe compulsory question the best, but otherwise rest of the choice questions, you have to see that which is the question which you are going to leave in the choice. Then you have to see that yes, these are the 4 questions I am going to attempt. Afterwards, the second thing is that ascertain that which is the question you are going to attempt first. Now this question should be the question which you know the best. It can be the compulsory question, it can be the choice questions out of choice. So but first question should be your best. It should be answered in the best possible manner. So you take out that question that yes, this is the question, I know all the subparts, I can present it properly, so I will do this question first, because it creates a very good impression on the examiner that yes, you know the paper. So don't feel that if I don't do the compulsory question first, then it will leave a bad impression or my paper will not be evaluated. Like few students have this misconception also. Nothing of that sort is there. You have to attempt any question. You can attempt the questions in any sequence. You can attempt any question first, but that I would advise that should be the question you know the best. Then that should be it should be in the decreasing sequence, that second best question and third best question should be attempted in that sequence. So and try to have an estimated time for each particular question depending on the complexity level of each particular question. So try to allocate estimated time for each particular question, that yes, you will be attempting this entire paper. For this question you will be allocating this much time, for MCQs this much time will be allocated. All that planning has to be done within these 15 minutes time. And once you get the paper, you just have to start writing the paper. Try to keep aside some time for your revision also, because that is very important. Some computational mistake could also have been there, or you have interpreted some question wrongly, all these things. So try to keep aside 15 to 20 minutes at least for revision. But because if you keep 15 to 20 minutes, you will get only 10 minutes. You will definitely exceed, you tend to exceed time while writing at the time of actual attempting the answer. You tend to exceed that time. So what you have to do is, you have, as soon as you get the paper, start attempting the paper, start writing the answer, because you know that what you have to do in what sequence, how much time you have allocated for each question. That all you have done in the 15 minutes reading time. Now when you have started attempting the paper and you are exceeding too much in any of the answers, you are exceeding too much in the allocated time, then leave that question then and there, leave adequate space for that particular question, and then move to the next question, because you have to attempt all the questions in the paper, and this you have to follow across the papers, across the groups, that each and every question you have to write. You are a final student, you can answer the questions logically also, maybe some provision you are not aware of, but you have to answer that question. Try attempting all the questions, answer that question on the basis of the logical understanding of the provisions. So because you know that attempting three best answers will not give you as much marks as you attempt six answers or five answers in an average manner. Every question will fetch you some or the other marks, and maybe that 2 3 marks or 4 marks which you have got in any of the questions will lead you to clearing that particular group. So attempt all the questions. Don't focus on 2 3 questions only, or don't devote all your time in attempting 2 3 questions. Every question has to be given equal importance. Every question has to be given full time which that question requires, and then try to revise it at the end of the paper. Then try writing in commensuration with the marks which each question carries. Don't write too much in the questions, because writing too much will not give you more marks. So you should try to write in commensuration with the marks which each question carries. So now one of the students, Mr. Prasad is saying, up to 2019 there were two questions, 14 plus 9, towards tax liability payable in cash, etc. From November 2020, pattern was changed again in May 2022 back to two questions for 23 marks. Can we expect the trend of 23 marks for computation? Prasad, see, the question which was asked in May 2022 also, and before that also, the evaluation and synthesis, when I say the one complete integrated question which has the application of all the provisions, that is generally one question. But the second question which you are referring, that was not an integrated question. That question had the application of, yes, it has the application of 2 3 provisions, but the level of complexity is different. So the difficulty level will be different in the case of the evaluation and synthesis. It is a higher order scale. For that, only compulsory question was there, and the rest, the second question was a question which requires the application of provisions of supply, exemptions, and reverse charge. But it was not an integrated question. It was not the, you can say, the evaluation and synthesis level skill which was being tested in that particular question. So anyhow, it is not that net GST liability can be asked only in one question. It can be asked in any of the questions. It depends on the number of adjustments which you would be having. It will be if it is a big full-fledged question, then you have to prepare accordingly. You have to answer it accordingly. And I would be taking one such question for you, so that you can understand that what are the generally committed errors by the students in such type of the this 14 marks question, compulsory question, which generally comes. So what type of mistakes students usually commit in such questions, that I would be taking. So hope your query is addressed. So now time management, I have already told you, this is how you have to manage time in the exam. You have to write in commensuration with the marks which each question carries. And now we come to the this evaluation synthesis question, which is given in your RTP, so that you can this will help you in ascertaining the answer, determining the answer to this particular question also, and in understanding the points which you need to keep in mind while attempting this question. Okay. Yes. So if you see this question, this is a question number 9 of your RTP. Moto Powers Private Limited, registered under GST, is engaged in manufacture of 5-seater luxury cars at its factories located in the states of Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and Gujarat. The company has obtained registration for in each of these states. It also enters into contracts for providing these cars on rent. So this Power Private Limited, when you read this line, I will go through this line once again, but as soon as you see that it is supplying the luxury cars, it is manufacturing luxury cars, so it is engaged in supply of 5-seater luxury cars. Second thing is it provides the car on rent to its client, where the cost of fuel is included in the value of supply. So these are two types of services which from this particular para we came to know that yes, this supplier is providing two types of supplies. One is supply of cars, that is supply of goods. Another is supply of service, that is car rental service or providing cars on rent. This is the second service it is providing. Then we have been given information regarding the receipts and payments for a particular period. In this format, you will not be able to see the rupee symbol, that is missing. So please bear with that, because due to change of the format, this rupee symbol has gone. So this dash is actually the rupee symbol. Yes. So we have been given the receipt and payments details of this particular company for the factory located in Gujarat. So we have been given information only pertaining to its factory in Gujarat. So not about Rajasthan or any other state, only with respect to factory pertaining to Gujarat, the information has been given. Then you can see that we have few adjustments also, and these few adjustments run into 12 of the adjustments or 12 of the additional information which has been provided to you. Now let us see what is the requirement of the question. The requirement of the question is compute the total ITC available with Moto Power Private Limited for the given tax period and the net GST payable. So you have to compute the ITC available also and net GST payable. Anyhow, when you were going to compute net GST payable, you had to see the total ITC available with Moto Powers Private Limited. You had to compute that also, but this is also a specific requirement of the question also, that yes, what is the ITC that would be available. So we have to show it in the main answer itself. It will not form part of the working notes. It will be the part of main answer. After that, we have to arrive at the net GST payable. So what you have to do is, in such a question, you have to make two tables. Generally, 2 or 3 tables. One is of the ITC available, CGST, SGST, and IGST. Second is the output tax payable, again categorized into CGST, SGST, and IGST. And in another table, either you can use third table to show the set off of the two, set off of ITC against the output tax payable, or while computing the output tax, after computing the output tax, so following that itself, you can show the net GST payable by setting off the ITC. So that depends on your convenience how you want to show this. But this is a general way of presenting such type of answers. Now we will come to the first one by one, all the items and payments and receipts details which have been given to you, and we'll see what is the treatment of these particular items and what are the points you need to keep in mind while approaching such type of question, because this is the most pain area for the students. They generally do not score full in this question. They commit mistakes somewhere or the else, and then they end up losing marks in this question. So that is why I have taken this question. You will get a revision of some of the important aspects also, concepts also, and moreover you will be knowing that what are the mistakes which students generally commit in this. So first is you see the first item in the payment and receipts account is raw material. Now raw material, it says that the amount of raw material is 4.5 lakhs, that is 4,50,000. And with each item of the receipt and payment account, we have to see that whether there is any adjustment given pertaining to that or not. This you have to follow an exam also. Whenever information is given to you, see if some any additional information is given to you, because you have to take into account while solving that. Now, whatever receipts, whatever payments we are taking into consideration, because we are taking payments into consideration, so this is very obvious that first of all, we'll be computing the ITC available, and that is the requirement of the question also. So first is the raw material, and for raw material, what is given is that the raw material worth rupees 0.5 lakhs purchased from a registered supplier located in Gujarat. Now, when I say supplier is located in Gujarat, which is providing the raw material, so first thing which comes to our mind is that yes, this is an intrastate supply. It is an inward supply because payment is being made. We make payments for inward supplies only. In case of the outward supplies, we receive payment. So payments column is telling us, or payments column is elaborating the inward supplies which we have received, either of goods or of services. First item is raw material. With respect to that, an adjustment is there which says that raw materials worth rupees 50,000 have been purchased from a registered supplier, and the next point says is they were destroyed due to fire in the factory. Therefore, they could not be used in the factory. So this, when you read this line, it should immediately strike you that yes, it should immediately strike you that this credit is blocked. So for 50,000, credit is blocked. Credit pertaining to this GST paid on rupees 50,000 will be blocked. It is an intrastate supply. So because it has been given that the supplier of these raw materials is registered in Gujarat. So out of 4,50,000, 50,000 is the credit of 50,000 is blocked by virtue of section 17.5 because these goods have been destroyed by fire. So the inputs which do not go into the manufacturing process, which are destroyed due to fire, seepage or any other reason, so those inputs, the credit on that will be blocked by virtue of section 17.5. And out of this, now out of 4.5, the 50,000 will be reduced. Credit of only 4 lakh rupees will be available. Now we have to see that whether this 4 lakh is in the nature of interstate supply or intrastate supply. For that also information is provided to you. Remaining raw material has been procured from various vendors located in Maharashtra. Now, since the vendors are located outside Gujarat, so therefore this will be an interstate supply. So for the remaining 4 lakh rupees, the nature of supply will be interstate supply. This you can easily infer. Now, again, one question comes, what is the rate? That has also been provided to you in the question in the later part of the question. 9%, 9% and 18%. For renting of cars, a separate rate is given that we will see later, afterwards when we come to that particular service. But in case of the raw material, the rate applicable will be 18%. Accordingly, you can determine the answer. You can see the solution to it in the RTP also. But for the timing, I will be focusing only on the elaborating you the adjustments and the items which are given to you. So on 4 lakh, 18% amount will be computed and that will be the ITC available. Second is the rent paid. Now, we only are given rent paid. Now, we are not able to ascertain anything or infer anything. What is rent paid? What type of rent, on which item we have paid this rent? Now, for this you can see there is a separate adjustment which is given to you, adjustment number 2. Rent has been paid for the factory building. So, this is a rent on immovable property. Factory is located in Gujarat to its registered owner in Gujarat. Owner registered in Gujarat. So that means this is again intrastate supply. And because the factory is located in Gujarat, so location, the place of supply is in Gujarat. Supplier is also in Gujarat. That is the factory owner. He is also in Gujarat. So therefore, the nature of this supply is an intrastate supply. And on this particular 1 lakh rupees, we have to compute CGST and SGST at the rate of the 9% each. And we'll take the credit of it. Why we'll take credit? Because ITC on rent paid is in course or furtherance of, is the, this service received in course or furtherance of business. And therefore, the ITC on the same will be allowed. On raw material also, same thing has prevailed, that the ITC in respect of the inputs used in course or furtherance of business is allowed as per section 16.1, and therefore the credit of the same was available. So these two items we have seen. Next comes the consumables. Now for consumables, if you see that the amount is 1.5 lakhs, and for consumables, the adjustment is given at a later point of time in point 10. Point 10 says that the second sentence of point 10, it says that consumables procured from registered suppliers located in Gujarat. Now, when I see registered suppliers located in Gujarat, first thing which struck to me is that it is an intrastate supply. But these consumables of rupees 0.75 lakhs, they include the diesel worth rupees 0.575 lakhs used for running the cars so rented out to Zemes Travel Limited. Now let us see the first sentence also. Car rental income. This is an income which is given in your on your receipt side, because we have already seen that this particular supplier is providing the cars on rent. So he must have received some car rental income also. Car rental income, it pertains to renting of cars to Zemes Private Limited, registered in Gujarat, and the cost of fuel is included in the value of supply. What is the relevance of this? We'll see when we'll see this particular receipt. But in this case of renting, some consumables have been used. So those consumables, on that consumables, those consumables are in the nature of diesel. Now diesel is subject to diesel and VAT. GST is not yet levied on diesel and petrol and all these five products, the aviation turbine fuel. So all those things, the GST is not yet levied, so they are not within the purview of GST, and we do not get an ITC. When I say ITC is of the GST paid on the inputs, but it is not GST, it is diesel and VAT. So credit for the same cannot be allowed. You cannot take the credit of diesel and VAT. So this 0.75 lakhs credit for the same will not be allowed. Moreover, this consumable is used in providing the car renting service. Now in car renting service, the rate for the car renting service which is given to you here is the 2.5%, 2.5%, 5%. So it is given to you in the note itself that the credit of the input tax charged on the goods and services used in providing this car renting service, where the cost of fuel is included, it will not be, the credit of such input and input services will not be available except the input service for the credit of the input service in the same line of business. For example, we would have been receiving the car renting service from some other person and providing it to a third party. Then that credit, the input service, is in the nature of renting of cars only. That could have been allowed, but for any other input services, the credit would not be allowed. Now, Prasad is saying, ma'am, it is Rajasthan as per RTP rent. Prasad, I am taking this adjustment too. That has been corrected in the, you see the printed copy or the copy which is hosted on the website. In both these things, it is Gujarat only. You can see the question also, and you see the copy which is hosted on the website. In printed copy also, it is the same. So it is the rent which has been paid for a factory building located in Gujarat to its owner registered in Gujarat, and the person for whom we are computing the tax is also in Gujarat. So that means it is an intrastate supply, and ITC on the same will be allowed, because the rent is a service, renting service is a service which is in course or furtherance of business. So the credit on the same will be allowed. You can see the copy which is hosted on the website also, or if you have a hard copy of the same, you can check the same. So what I was telling you is, yes. So in case of the renting of this cars, only the credit of the same line of business, service of same line of business will be available. Otherwise, no credit would be available. So regarding the consumables which we have seen, this consumables point, diesel worth rupees 0.75 lakh, the credit will not be available for two reasons. One is that the credit of diesel and petrol or other aviation travel fuel, aviation turbine fuel, etc. is not available. Second thing is, so because of that reason, ITC will not be allowed on 0.75 lakhs. Moreover, since this consumable, it has been expressly mentioned that it is used for running the cars so rented out. So when you are using this consumable, this input for renting of car service, then automatically the credit will be disallowed. So on both sides, the credit will be disallowed. So that is what we have done in this question also, that we have not taken the credit for this particular 0.75 lakhs. Total consumables were of, the amount of consumables was given 1.5 lakhs, and out of this we will take the credit for only 0.75 lakhs, because for 0.75 lakhs credit will not be available. So let us see what is the nature of the consumables. Consumables procured from registered suppliers from Gujarat, that we have already seen that yes, the entire consumables of 1.5 lakhs, they were procured from suppliers located in Gujarat. So therefore, the nature of supply of consumables is intrastate, but out of that 0.75 lakhs, since it pertains to petrol and diesel, it was for renting of car service, so that was blocked. ITC on that particular amount, 0.75 lakh, is not available. We'll take credit only on 0.75 lakhs in case of the consumables. Next comes the security services. Now security services is 70,000 amount. Let us see the adjustment which is given for security services. Payment for security services, services provided by way of supply of security personnel. Now that is important. Why? Because when we see the security services, immediately it comes to our mind that we have to check whether reverse charge provisions are not there. And this is not so only in this entry. Whenever you see such type of integrated questions, whenever any such entry is there where you generally have reverse charge provisions or any such service is there which is covered under reverse charge, then you have to definitely check that whether in this particular question reverse charge provisions are not there or not. It can be an inward supply also, it can be an outward supply also. If it is an outward supply, what impact does it makes? Had it been an outward supply and it was a supply which was chargeable under the reverse charge provisions or tax on which is payable under the reverse charge provisions, that means it is not, I'm please don't get confused, I'm not talking about this particular question, I'm talking generally that suppose it was an outward supply which is taxable under reverse charge mechanism, and the your supplier, that means, is not liable to pay tax on that particular supply for the purpose of the ITC reversal or ITC apportionment under section 17(3), that would be considered as an exempt supply, and then the reversal provisions will get attracted. So immediate, whenever you see the outward reverse charge supply, outward supply being a reverse charge supply, immediately the point which should struck in your mind is that we have to apply the reversal provisions here, because it is a outward supply which is taxed under reverse charge, and it is considered as an exempt supply for the purpose of the input tax credit apportionment. Okay, but in this case it is an inward supply, so no need to worry. We have to check first of all the reverse charge provisions. Now it says payment for security services has been made to Safe and Secure Private Limited. Now that means Safe and Secure Secure Solutions Private Limited is the supplier, a body corporate, to whom it is providing this service to Moto Power Private Limited, which is again a body corporate, and it is a company located, this service provider is a company located in Gujarat, and it is not registered under GST. Okay, this also has a significance that it is not registered under GST. So first of all, let us recapitulate the reverse charge entry. Now what does reverse charge entry says? Now here also one important point is there, that when you are reading the reverse charge entry, don't read it just don't have a glance at the reverse charge entry and see the services which are chargeable under reverse charge. Go through each and every point specifically, that which is the supplier which will be which is the supplier which will be what should be the who should be the supplier, who should be the recipient, and in which case the reverse charge provisions will apply. So in order to the reverse charge provisions to be attracted, we have to have specific supplier, specific recipient, specific nature of service. When all these conditions are fulfilled, then together they attract the reverse charge provisions. So in case of the security services, when they are provided by the way of supply of security service, security personnel, then the services provided by a non-body corporate to a body corporate. Remember, supplier should be a non-body corporate, recipient should be a body corporate, then the reverse charge provisions will apply. In our case, what is there is, services are provided by a body corporate, Safe and Secure Private Solutions Private Limited. They are provided to, again, Moto Power Private Limited. So it is a body corporate. Okay, so this makes it very clear that yes, reverse charge provisions, at least they are not applicable. Next comes the question of taking the ITC or not. Security services, they are in course of further, they have been received in course of furtherance of business. So generally ITC would have been available. But here it is provided that this company is not registered in GST. That supplier is not registered under GST. So now when reverse charge provisions are not applicable, that means the recipient is not liable to pay tax on this particular transaction, and supplier will pay tax only when the supplier is registered. Now the supplier is not registered. So when supplier is not registered, when the supplier is not registered, and in that case you should not take the ITC, because he would not have charged the GST on this particular transaction. Okay, so this is the so in that case what you have to do is that the security services of 70,000 the ITC will not be available on this 70,000 amount because the supplier would not have charged GST. Reverse charge provisions are not applicable, so recipient would also not have paid the tax. So ultimately, the end result is that there will be no ITC on the security services. General insurance of cars manufactured. Now, the general insurance of cars manufactured, now when it comes to you, you have to, the first thing which should come to your mind is that whether this general insurance service pertains to that particular motor vehicle, because it is, this general insurance pertains to car. So this should be pertain to that particular motor vehicle, which on the ITC on that should be available. If ITC on the motor vehicle for which we have taken the general insurance service, it can be a repair service also, it can be maintenance service also. So if we have taken such kind of services for that particular motor vehicles on which ITC is allowed at the first instance, then only the ITC on their general insurance, on their repairs, on their maintenance will be available. This is as per provisions of section 17(5). So now let us see the adjustment with regard to general insurance. General insurance services have been availed from Divided Insurance Company Limited, registered in Gujarat. So this is given to you to provide the nature of supply. Nature of supply becomes intrastate supply. Person is registered in Gujarat. Recipient is in Gujarat. Nature of supply is an intrastate supply, and the ITC on this particular payment or on this particular service will be available. Because why? Because the ITC on this car, on the cars which have been manufactured, would be available. Now, why the ITC on motor? Because ITC on motor vehicle is generally blocked in case the it is a motor vehicle which is for the up to 13 passengers including driver. But in this case, 13 persons, it is to carry 13 persons, but only in 3 cases it is available. And one such case is when this motor vehicle is supplied by the supplier. Supplier is engaged in supplying the motor vehicle. So here the supplier is supplying the motor vehicle that we have already seen that this person, Moto Power Private Limited, is engaged in the manufacture of the 5-seater luxury cars. So it is supplying these luxury cars, and the ITC on this particular motor vehicle, that means the cars manufactured, will be available because the motor vehicle designed to carry passengers, if they are further supplied by the suppliers, then the ITC on the same will be available. So in this case, the cars manufactured, ITC on the same will be available. Similarly, resultantly, the ITC on general insurance service provided with respect to cars manufactured will also be available. So in this case, the ITC for this 2.5 lakhs, and it is an intrastate supply, so 9% CGST, 9% SGST will be applicable, and the ITC on the same will be applicable. So this is the adjustment which is given to you. General insurance service has been availed from Divided Insurance Company Limited. Next comes the works contract service. Now, works contract service, the general provision is for the works contract service, ITC is blocked. Works contract services for construction of immovable property. If works contract services are for construction of immovable property, then ITC on the same is blocked, except when these works contract services are used for providing the same line of the works contract services only, or when this immovable property, when we are saying immovable property, plant and machinery is excluded from the same. So plant and machinery, if you are using the works contract services for the construction of plant and machinery, then the works contract services, ITC on the works contract services is available. Now, when I say the plant and machinery, the ITC on construction of plant and machinery is available. So that means in this case, let us see first of all the adjustment, and then we will see that what does the plant and machinery actually means, or what all is included in plant and machinery. The works contract service availed from Chitra Builders, Gujarat. So again, it is an intrastate supply, have been used by the company for construction of a foundation on which machinery to be used in production process is to be mounted permanently. Okay. Now this machinery, again, this works contract services, it is clear from this adjustment that yes, the works contract services are being used for construction of the foundation for the machinery. Definition, and this machinery will be permanently mounted on this particular foundation. So it will become an immovable property. It gives an impression that yes, it will become an immovable property. And works contract services pertaining to immovable property for construction of immovable property is blocked. But plant and machinery specifically includes the structure or the foundation of the plant and machinery, Therefore, this particular structure, this particular foundation on which this plant and machinery has to be mounted, or in plant and machinery has to be installed on that particular structure, that will also be included in the plant and machinery. So it will not be part of immovable property, it will be plant and machinery only. And therefore, this foundation, the whatever works contract services we have used for construction of the foundation for the machinery, ITC will be allowed on the same because it is part of the plant and machinery only. So in this case, the ITC of the works contract services of 1.6 is allowed, and again it is in the nature of the intrastate services because it is an intrastate supply. It is being availed from Chitra Brothers, Gujarat. Okay. Yes. So 9% rate will be applicable here also, CGST, SGST each. Now comes the audit fee. The audit fee is given to you as 50,000 rupees. Audit fee is paid to a firm of chartered accountants. Now, first of all, see, let us, if we have seen audit fee, what would have been our this understanding regarding availability of credit? The ITC on audit fee is available because it is a service received or availed in course or furtherance of business. So as per section 17, the credit would have been available. But in case of the audit fee, in this case here an adjustment is given to you, additional information is given to you. So let us see what it says. Audit fee is paid to a firm of chartered accountants, Mrs. Pandya and Associates, registered in West Bengal. So it is the supplier is in West Bengal with an aggregate turnover of 30 crores in the preceding financial year. Now the aggregate turnover is 30 crores of Pandya and Associates. For conducting statutory audit of the company in the preceding financial year, the firm raises an e-invoice without IRN for the said services. E-invoice is without IRN, invoice reference number. Now, first of all, let us see that first of all whether Messrs. Pandya and Associates was required to issue invoice. Although we know that e-invoice can be issued only by a person who is mandatorily required to do so. But yes, the question is given to you. You definitely have to check it. Any registered person whose aggregate turnover since 2017-18 in any of the preceding financial years, if it exceeds rupees 20 crores, now the threshold limit for e-invoice has been reduced down to 20 crores only, for which is applicable for your examination for November 2022, minded. So that will be mandatorily required to issue invoices. But an e-invoice which does not have an invoice reference number is not a valid invoice, as per Rule 48 of the CGST rules. So we have to take ITC only on the basis of the valid documents. E-invoice without an IRN is not a valid document. Therefore, the ITC will not be available on the same. This is also an important point. This point can be there in some small questions also, some subparts, 5 to 6 marks questions also. This type of point can be there. So you need to keep in mind that e-invoice must bear an invoice reference number. So this is not a valid invoice. No, it is not a valid invoice, valid document, then ITC cannot be taken. So though audit fee was a service which was received in course or furtherance of business, ITC would have been available. But in this case, we do not have a valid document supporting this particular service. So the ITC on the same will not be available. Then we come to the bank charges. So bank charges, 10,000 bank charges have been charged by the bank. Let us see the adjustment. Let me tell you that we have adjustment for all the entries or all the payments receipts which are given to us in this particular question. But even if it was not given, it's your duty to check it once that whether any adjustment is there with that particular entry or not. Bank charges are towards various services availed by the company, which is the company Motor Power Private Limited, during a month with regard to its current account maintained with Money Bank, registered in Gujarat. So this is an intrastate inward supply. Bank issued a consolidated tax invoice this is a consolidated tax invoice for all such services at the end of the month. Okay, now as per this rule 54, whatever invoices, in case of the banking company, it has been specifically provided that a consolidated tax invoice can be considered as a valid invoice if it is issued at the end of the month for all the services which have been provided by the bank to a customer for during that particular month. If the bank issues a consolidated tax invoice, only thing is that it should have some specified detail of the tax charge, then description of services, total value of the supply, then GST of the supplier and recipient. So if all these details are available, then that particular document will be a valid tax invoice. It will be considered as a valid tax invoice. So in this case, though bank has not issued separate invoices for all the services, but a consolidated tax invoice at the end of the month containing these some specific details, not all the details also, then also it will be considered as a valid invoice and a valid document on the basis of which ITC can be taken. So therefore, for these bank charges, you can take the ITC. ITC is available, and for this 10,000, now since bank is located in Gujarat, so it is an intrastate supply, and the CGST SGST rate of 9% will be applicable. So this covers almost all the entries. Last entry which is left on payment side is membership of automobile association. Now again, when we read the word membership in our question, then what comes to our mind at first is membership of a club is restricted, membership of a club, fitness center, health and fitness center, it is blocked as per section 17(5). So we have to check that whether this membership is blocked or is also blocked or not. It is membership of automobile association. So what entry section of section 17(5) says is that membership of club, health and fitness center is blocked, but membership of an automobile association, since it is an automobile company and it has taken a membership of automobile association, so this particular membership will not be blocked, because it is only a membership for generally the membership which we take for the consumption of the employees for their leisure activities, they are blocked. But this is a kind of a mandatory membership, or this is a kind of membership which an automobile association takes for facilitating its functioning, and it is the membership of an automobile association. So this is not going to be a block. The credit of this particular membership is not going to be blocked. So it will again be applicable. Now, one particular adjustment regarding the membership of automobile association is provided to you, and that says the adjustment 8, which says that automobile association is registered in the state of Gujarat. Now, since the automobile association is registered in the state of Gujarat, that means it is an intrastate supply. The nature of the supply is an intrastate supply. So on this, the 9% credit, 9% CGST and SGST would be applicable, and credit for the same can be taken because this is a service availed in course or furtherance of business only. So as per section 16, the credit would be available. So now all the items on the payment side are complete. Now we come to the items on the receipt side. First item is given to you the sales amount. Sales amount is of 30 lakh rupees. And let us see what additional information is provided to you with regard to that. We have been provided the breakup of the sales. First is sales in Gujarat, sales in states other than Gujarat, and exports under the letter of undertaking. Okay. Now let us see what each item, how we have to treat each of these items. First is the sales in Gujarat. Now when I say sales in Gujarat and the supplier is also is of Gujarat, so that means it is an intrastate supply, and the tax will be charged at the rate of 9% CGST and SGST rate. So this is how we have to treat it. Now this will be treated in a separate table where we will be computing the net GST payable. So one table of ITC allowed, we have taken all the items for the ITC allowed. One important item is still remaining, that I will let you know after doing this receipt side first. One item for ITC allowed, one major amount that is left, but we'll see it afterwards. First of all, we are seeing the receipt side. So on receipt side, the breakup of the sales which is given to you, intrastate sales, 9% tax, CGST, SGST is charged. Sales in states other than Gujarat, then it is 6 lakhs. So it is an interstate sales. Because it is provided in other states, the rate will be 18% would be charged. Okay, so it is an interstate sale. Third comes the export under letter of undertaking. Now, export of goods is a zero rated supply in terms of section 16 subsection 1 of IGST Act. So it is a zero rated supply. Now a zero rated supply under LUT, under letter of undertaking, since it is mentioned in the question the export has been made under LUT, so it would have been made without payment of tax. On exports, IGST is payable, so it would have been made without payment of IGST. And hence, in this question on net tax payable column or table will not charge any tax on the exports. So this will be without any tax. So we'll not take charge any tax on exports. On sales intrastate supply 9%, on sales in states other than Gujarat 18% tax rate, and IGST will be charged. Then comes the next is car rental income. Now car rental income is 50,000, and when I say car rental income, that means renting of motor cars. Again, a reverse charge entry is there for renting of motor vehicles for passengers. Car is for transportation of passengers only. So we have to see whether reverse charge provisions are applicable or not. Because in this case, if reverse charge provisions are applicable, then in that case, that will become an exempt supply and reversal provisions will be attracted. So we have to take into consideration the reverse charge provisions being applicable in this case or not. Now, the car rental income is provided by a body corporate. That means the Moto Power Private Limited. It is a body corporate. It is being provided to whom? That has been provided to you in question itself in adjustment number 10. Car rental income pertains to renting of cars to Zemes Private Limited. Now, Zemes Private Limited is again a body corporate. Okay. Registered in Gujarat, and cost of fuel is included in the same. So all this information is provided to you so that you can consider whether reverse charge provisions are applicable in this particular case or not. Remember the reverse charge entry, what does it say? It says the tax on renting of motor vehicles for designed to carry passengers is payable under reverse charge only when first the cost of fuel is included in the value of supply or consideration. Second is the renting of motor vehicle service is provided by a non-body corporate to a body corporate, and the invoice charging 12% GST rate, 12% IGST rate particularly, is not issued by the recipient. So in this case, the rate of tax which is provided for car renting service is 2.5%, 2.5% and 5%. So 12% rate is not there. It is 5% rate which is charged on this particular car renting service, which has been given to you also. And the cost of fuel is included. That is also given in the first sentence itself. It has been provided the information that the cost of fuel is included. It is again provided in the adjustment also. But the only thing is that the car renting service has been provided by a body corporate, that is Moto Power Private Limited, to a body corporate. So this condition is not fulfilled. So everything should be satisfied, then only reverse charge will be applicable. That is, car renting service should be provided by a body corporate, by a non-body corporate to a body corporate. Whereas in this case, the services are provided by a body corporate to another body corporate. Moto Power Private Limited is a body corporate and it is providing this car renting service to a body corporate. Had Moto Power Company was a non-body corporate, had it been a partnership or some other form of a association, then it would have been chargeable under, then tax would have been charged under reverse charge only. But here, body corporate providing services to a body corporate, reverse charge provisions will not be applicable. So in this case, since reverse charge provisions are not applicable, so it is not considered as an exempt supply. That is also understood to you. Forward charge tax will be payable on forward charge. Rate of tax which will be charged in this case will be 2.5%. We have to see whether interstate or intrastate, that we have to see. So Zemes Private Limited is registered in Gujarat. Yeah. So rate of tax which will be charged is 2.5% CGST and SGST. One more point regarding this car rental income, which is important to note, is that you see the notes which are given to you at the end of the question. Rate we have taken from this particular note, and this note says that the credit of input tax on these services and goods. I told you that I will tell you this point at the later point of time. And this is the important point which we need to consider, is that the credit of the input tax charged on goods and services which are used in supplying this particular renting of motor vehicle service, where cost of fuel is included and all these things are there, that is not available. So input tax credit is not available on the inputs, except the inputs and input services, except the input services which are from the same line of business. So it is an inherent assumption in this particular question. This question is based on this inherent assumption that yes, in case of the car renting service, the inputs which are being used are the consumables which have been used, and the consumables, or you can say the diesel on which excise and VAT was levied. We had already considered this particular entry. This is the input which is being used in this particular service of car renting of cars. So therefore, we need not, the reversal provisions will not attract here also, because the car renting service, only consumables were being used, only inputs which were being used was car renting the consumables, that is diesel, and credit has already been blocked on that. Next receipt is income from services provided to Gujarat government administration, and that is of rupees 2,50,000 rupees. Now, there is an exemption. This is also an outward supply, and there is an exemption entry pertaining to such kind of service provided. It says that services provided by central government, state government, or local authority, not local authority, central government, state government, union territory administration under any training program, for which, we have to see the adjustment also with regard to this so that we can understand the exact nature of service provided to the Gujarat government. Services provided to Gujarat government administration are under health training program. Okay, so it is a service provided to a government, state government. Then state government administration, this service is provided. It is under a training program. And the expenditure borne by the, here it needs to be read as a Gujarat government. Just a minute. So this is a total expenditure. 51% of the total expenditure is borne by the Gujarat government. Now we have to see whether this particular expenditure or this particular service provided by the supplier, whether this is exempt or it is taxable. Exemption entry says that services provided by central government, state government, or union territory administration under any training program wherein the 75% or more of the total expenditure is borne by that particular government, then that service is exempt. So in this case, if we see that since the expenditure which is being borne is 51%, that is, which is less than 75%. So the exemption entry will not be attracted. And since the exemption entry is not attracted, therefore in this case, the tax payable, the tax will be paid on this particular service provided, and it is an outward supply which is not an exempt supply. So on the receipt side, if we see, sales is there, that is, we have charged tax on the same. Car rental income is there, tax we have considered, and we have seen that the basic intention is to keep this question free from those reversal provisions. But in case you have any such entry where the reversal provisions are attracted, you have to apply the provisions accordingly. Service which is provided to government under a training program, that is also a service which is not exempt from the GST, and therefore CGST and SGST at the rate of 9% each will be payable on the same. Okay. Now, so these are all the input and output entries which we have considered, and we have to see the solution. Let us go through the solution also once, so that we can see that yes, what was and how the set off has to be done. That also we have to see. So first, this was the actually ITC item which I was referring. If you see the question, it provides you in adjustment number 12 the opening balance of. If we see the opening balance of ITC, it is available to you. So when you are computing the ITC allowed, you have to see the CGST, SGST and IGST opening balance also. You have to add it to the ITC allowed. If in case it was not provided, then it would have been fine. But if it is there in the question, definitely your table should start with the opening balance only. Before that, let me take the query of Prasad. Prasad, please download your copy from the for the RTP and or see the printed copy. So this see the adjustments or the sequencing which is there. This copy from which I am teaching is there on the website also. You can see any of you want to see this question afterwards also. You can see this question from the website, and that is there in the printed copy also. If you have the printed copy of the RTP also, then also you can refer the same. So for the question, if you want to refer this question afterwards, you can see the RTP which is hosted or the printed copy of the RTP. So opening balance which I was talking about is the CGST, SGST and IGST balance which is available. This will be taken to the ITC allowed, the table in which we are computing the ITC allowed. So for ITC which will be available for the month will include these three items also. Let us see the answer. Opening balance of ITC. Then we have the raw material. We had taken the credit except the 50,000 which was destroyed due to fire. Rent paid for building. Again, it is an intrastate supply, so credit will be available. Consumables procured will be an since it is an intrastate supply, and 75,000 which pertain to diesel or this fuel, that is excluded. Security services, again, since the supplier was not registered and it would not have charged GST, reverse charge provisions were not applicable in this case, so no GST was payable on this particular transaction, and ITC was not available on the same because GST was not charged. General insurance of cars manufactured, we have seen why it is available, because the ITC on cars was available, and consequently the ITC on general insurance of the cars manufactured was also available. Then the works contract services. Now again, since works contract services were used for construction of the foundation for the plant and machinery, so therefore that foundation is considered as plant and machinery. Works contract services used for construction of plant and machinery is allowed. Works contract services for construction of immovable property is disallowed. It is blocked as per section 17(5), and therefore the works contract services, in this case the credit would be allowed. Audit fee credit will not be allowed because a valid document is required. In fact, after doing this question, I will take some other generally committed errors also which students commit in this type of question, because in this question there are n number of mistakes which students commit, and therefore their final answer is generally not correct. So in order to secure full marks in this question, you have to do each and every entry clear properly, and you have to follow the sequence also. So I will apprise you with the generally committed errors in this question. Bank charges, we have seen that a consolidated tax invoice is issued. So consolidated tax invoice which has been issued is a valid document for claiming the ITC, and therefore the bank charges ITC on the same will be available. Membership of Automobile Association. Again, the Automobile Association was registered in Gujarat, and the ITC of the membership of the Automobile Association, since it is not a membership of any club or a health and fitness center, which was specifically disallowed. So on this, the ITC will be allowed, and that will give you the total ITC available. Okay. Now the question requires to compute the net GST payable. So this is what we had computed till now, was total ITC available, and in output tax also we have also computed the output tax, so that you can see the intrastate sales in Gujarat, the interstate sales in Gujarat, and on exports under LUT. So exports under LUT, we had already seen that exports are a zero rated supply, and exports with LUT or under LUT, letter of undertaking, is made without payment of IGST. So IGST has not been charged in this particular case. Car rental income, again taxable at the rate of 2.5% in CGST, SGST each, that we have seen. Income from services provided to Gujarat government, again CGST, IGST would be charged on the same. And then we got the total output tax liability. Okay, now total output tax liability, from that we have to reduce the ITC which is available to us. So generally, what is the sequence for set off of the ITC, that also needs to be followed, and that is the first of all, IGST credit has to be exhausted. IGST credit, the sequence for utilization of IGST credit also is IGST credit has to be set off or utilized towards the payment of IGST first. Then remaining IGST credit can be used for payment of CGST and SGST in any order and in any proportion. Generally, what the question asks us is questions, and you will find in questions it asks for minimum net GST payable. Why it asks for minimum net GST payable? Because otherwise there can be any student can set off in any manner. So in this question, since this question you will find that minimum word is not there. But why it is not there? Because here the values are such that IGST credit gets exhausted from the payment of IGST itself. There is no excess IGST credit available after setting off IGST liability, which can be utilized for payment of CGST or SGST. So there is in this question, whatever IGST credit is there, that can be used only for IGST, and after that nothing is left, it is exhausted. So no question of using it for CGST, SGST, no question of deciding the proportion or order, nothing. Then comes the CGST credit. The CGST credit can be used for the payment of IGST, and then remaining credit can be used for payment of CGST. But in this case, IGST, so CGST credit can be used for payment of CGST. Only thing is that the overall GST payable should be the same. So CGST credit has been used for payment of CGST. SGST credit, the interchange, the cross utilization between SGST and CGST is not allowed. So CGST credit cannot be used for payment of SGST and vice versa. Therefore, what we have done is to keep it simple, the respective credits have been used. So in this case, the credit utilization set off or the credit set off was a bit simple. So we have simply set off the ITC available from the net GST liability, and then you get the net GST payable, which has to be paid from the electronic cash ledger. Now, in this case, you would have seen that in this question, there was no entry on which the tax was payable under reverse charge in case of the inward supplies. In case of the inward supplies, in case of the outward supplies, had it been there, then it would have been considered as exempt supply, and then the procedure would have, the rest of the provisions would have followed. But in case of the inward supplies also, there was no supply on which the tax was payable under reverse charge. So therefore, so in case of the reverse charge, if any tax is payable under reverse charge on the inward supplies, then what are the points you need to keep in mind in that case was that first of all, you have to pay that that tax or GST on the services or on the services on which it is payable under reverse charge in cash. You cannot use any ITC for the payment of tax on reverse charge supplies. Any inward supplies on which the supplier is making payment, on which your supplier, but he is making payment as a recipient. That means Moto Power Private Limited in our case, if it had received any services, for example, security services, if the question would have framed in such a manner that the tax was payable under reverse charge, if it is there, then you could not have taken, you would have to pay that security services tax, that tax on security services in cash only. On that particular amount, the ITC set off is not allowed. First thing. Second thing, the credit of that particular service, the amount which you have paid, could have been used for payment of output tax liability. So these are the 2 points you need to keep in mind when you see the inward supply tax on which is payable under reverse charge. Okay, so because generally the students commit mistake in this, that they use ITC for payment of the reverse charge inward supplies also. Inward supplies. If outward supplies is there, then if outward supplies is there on under reverse charge, then the tax would not have been paid by the Motor Power Limited, because that tax would be paid by the recipient himself. So in that case, the payment of tax, the question of paying the tax would not arise. But in case of the inward supplies, the Motor Power Private Limited, whatever inward supplies for Motor Power Private Limited which are taxable under reverse charge are there, then Motor Power Private Limited would have to pay the tax. On those particular receipts, the tax would be payable only in cash and ITC will not be allowed to be set off. But on those services, the GST, whatever GST has been paid, that could have been used for taking that ITC on the same could have been taken and could have been used for payment of the output tax. This is one of the points. Another point is, which you have to see in this question, is that whether in every question you have to see the applicability of rule 86B. Either it is given or not, because you know that if the value of taxable supply other than zero rated supply and exempt supply in a given tax period, if it exceeds rupees 50 lakhs, then only 99% of the total output tax liability can be used for 99% of the total output tax liability can be set off or can be paid from the using the amount available in the electronic credit ledger. That means it can be understood with an example, because here it is not applicable. In this particular case, 86B is not applicable. But suppose the output tax liability, uh, the turnover, or you can say the value of taxable supply in a particular month exceeds 50 lakhs. The question is given to you is in such a form, and the aggregate, the value of taxable supply is more than 50 lakhs, and the CGST, SGST, and IGST payable is 100 in each case. 100 rupees CGST, 100 rupees SGST, and 100 rupees IGST. Then, and credit available is suppose 105 in each of the taxes. So, though credit of 105 is available for payment of CGST, credit of 105 SGST is available for payment of SGST, and same is for IGST. Due to the due to the application of Rule 86B in any case, only 99 rupees of the tax can be paid by utilizing the ITC. So this restricts the utilization, the payment to be made by utilizing the ITC. That means 1 rupee has to be paid in cash, even though the amount of electronic amount is available in electronic credit ledger or ITC is available with the supplier. But since Rule 86B is applicable, since his value of supply in any month exceeds rupees 50 lakhs, he has to pay that amount in the remaining 1 rupee or 1% of this output tax liability in cash, and only 99% has to be paid through utilizing ITC. So this is one of the points you have to keep in mind. Then we have some more points which you need to keep in mind while attempting any of these type of questions. Let me take out those points for you. One of such point is the, just a minute. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So suppose there is an so generally students commit mistake in block credit also. When we see the comments which we receive from the examination department for the performance of the students, we see that the block credit concept is also generally not clear to the students. So each and every entry has to be done thoroughly. Like when we see the motor vehicle credit, then motor vehicle, if the number of passengers is up to 13 persons, then the credit would not be available except in the specified 3 cases. Otherwise, if it is more than 13 persons, the credit is available. This answers the query of Saurabh Sarkar also. He has asked the same question. So Saurabh, it answers your query. And Prasad, I once again request you that you download the RTP from the website. There is a printed copy of the same which is available to you. You can take the printed copy also, or you can download the RTP from the copy which is available to on the website. Okay, so this is the latest copy which has been uploaded on the website. That copy you download from the website, and that is the copy which is applicable for you. And in such type of questions, some other errors which students commit is the interest on delayed payment. Sometimes what happens is interest on delayed payment amount is given to you. Now, the important points which you need to keep in mind for the interest or delayed payment is, interest for delayed payment is what, that the supplier has made a payment on a the supplier has received the payment from the recipient of the service. The person who has received the service has made the payment on a delayed basis. That means suppose 60 days time was decided and he has made the payment after that. So sometimes an interest is charged by the supplier from the recipient, that if the payment is made after this particular time, this much amount of interest will be charged. Now, this interest would have been received at a later point of time after making the original supply. So some questions which generally comes to our mind is, first is what would be the nature of this particular interest, nature of this supply, because definitely it is a supply. This interest which is the interest which has been collected on the delayed payment. So this interest, the rate or the nature of this interest would be the nature of the original supply. For example, if the original supply is an interstate supply, then interest on the delayed payment would also be an interstate, would be in the nature of the interstate. Second is The interstate supply, the interest on delayed payment, if it is not provided in the question, whether it is an interstate, it is an inclusive amount or it is an amount exclusive of GST. If the question does not, language of the question does not makes it clear. Suppose the question says that yes, the interest on delayed payment of rupees 10,000 has been received in lump sum from the recipient and the recipient is not ready to pay anything or he is not paid the tax amount separately, then it is very clear that this amount which is given to us is inclusive of GST. So then we can take it inclusive of GST. But suppose some information is not given to you in the question and this prevails or this position can be there for other things also. So suppose some information is not there in the question and you have to answer that question in the examination. So without wasting any further time, what you should do is you should take any of the assumptions, because if both the possibilities, both the assumptions are on equal footing or both the assumptions are equally possible, then you should clearly state that assumption in your answer and you should take that solve your question according to that assumption. But only thing is that you should state your assumption clearly in the answer. That is given in your question also, and the question paper itself it is mentioned generally at the top of the instructions that wherever some question is not clear on any particular thing or you need to require to make any assumptions, you feel that there is a need for making the assumptions, then you should solve that question accordingly. So this way you can take the interest on delayed payment. And remember that there is always a stepwise marking in each of the compulsory or optional questions also if it is a computational question, or not even computational, I would say. In fact, in case of the questions where you have to elaborate the provisions of law, where there is an application of the provisions of law and computation is not required, then there is a stepwise marking in each of the questions. So it is not so that if you have not arrived at the final conclusion or final answer correctly, then you will be allotted a 0. No, you will be given marks for each of these steps separately. So hope, Saurabh, that answers your question, that there is a stepwise marking even in the compulsory question as well as in the questions which optional questions or the questions in which the choice is there. So the stepwise marking is there in each and every question, and in all the papers stepwise marking is followed by the institute. Then we come to the subsidy point. Now, there is a confusion regarding subsidy also sometimes to the students, because you know that the subsidy received by the supplier from the government, then it has to be excluded from the value. If the subsidy is provided by the government to the supplier, while computing the value of supply, it has to be excluded. And similarly, if the subsidy has been received from a non-governmental organization, suppose some private NGO is providing a subsidy to the supplier for supply of the goods, then the subsidy has to be included in the value. Second thing is, now this is one of the conditions, that the subsidy has to be received from a non-governmental organization to receive it, to include it in the value of supply. So students generally commit mistake in this point. And what is the main area where they generally commit mistake is that they're not able to understand whether the the subsidy has already been considered in the price which is given to you, or it has not been considered in the price. So accordingly, your answer will change. This is the point you have to notice, or you have to you have to especially check in the exam that whether the subsidy amount which is given to you, it is taken into consideration, it is taken into account while computing the price or not. Because when I'm saying that subsidy has to be included, a non-governmental subsidy has to be included in the value, and the question provides you that subsidy has not been considered in the question, in the price. Subsidy has not been considered in the price. That means subsidy has not been included in the price. Suppose it provides, so it has not been included. That means it is not already included. Price is after subsidy, after deduction of subsidy, and since it should have included the subsidy amount, so you have to add it. But you will add it only when it is linked to the price. It is directly linked to the price. For example, there is a lump sum subsidy which is provided on a monthly basis, or on the basis of the turnover, some subsidy is provided to the supplier. So on if it is a lump sum subsidy which is provided, suppose I say that the non-governmental organization provides subsidy to the organization on a monthly basis. Monthly basis, 5 lakh subsidy is available. Then that subsidy will not be included. So it should be linked to the price also. Then the mixed supply, composite supply, and separate supply. This is also a very important concept, because that is also involves application in this integrated question, this compulsory question. So in this question, if some queries are also there. Yes. So if composite supply is there or there is a mixed supply, then in that case, you know that in composite supply, you have to apply the rate of the principal supply. So in case you have any of the supplies on the you have any of the supplies which is being which the supplier is making and it is a composite supply, you have to take the rate of the principal supply in that case. Or suppose the principal supply is exempt, then you have to make the entire supply as an exempt supply. So this point also has to be borne in mind, that whenever we are seeing anything on the supply side, then what type of supply is it? We have to check that it should not be a composite or mixed supply, otherwise it will require a special treatment. That is, the rate has to be taken accordingly, and the entire entry has to be treated accordingly to entire amount has to be treated according to the nature of the principal supply. If it is in principal supply is an exempt supply, then entire amount will be exempt. If principal supply has a particular rate, then entire amount will be taxed at that particular rate. Similarly, mixed supply. So if the supply is a mixed supply, then in that case, the the highest rate of tax will be charged on that particular mixed supply. So this and in case it is a separate supply or it is an individual supply, then there is no question, there is no issue. In that case, what you have to do is you have to apply the rates separately to the each of the supplies. So that is not a question. But mixed supply and composite supply has to be borne in mind while attempting these questions, because there can be a question of composite supply or mixed supply, and if you miss it, then you will apply the wrong rate of tax to that particular supply. Saurabh is saying that whether it is required to make reasons for every item of the compulsory question. Yes, Saurabh. In fact, if any of the item or any of the payment or receipts you are not treating because it is not, there is no treatment required because of the particular reasoning, then you have, even if you do not include it in the value or even if you do not include in the ITC available, then also you have to give reason for that particular item or that particular adjustment why you have not treated it this way. Because our intention is not to make you compute the right amount or arrive at the right amount only. Our intention is also to make you apprise with the relevant or conversant with the relevant provisions of law. You should have a good understanding of the provisions of law. So in case the interest, Saurabh is asking, in case the interest paid under value of supply, say 10,000, in solving the answer, the interest to be value of supply should be 10,000 into 100 upon 115 for arriving the gross interest, right? Even if it is a case of CGST and SGST being charged, then also we have to first of all compute the interest exclusive of tax. We have to exclude the interest portion from the this value, this interest on delayed payments amount. This here also there is a point where students have generally they commit mistakes. Some of the students, not all of you, but few students, they have this computational error. What that in case of CGST, SGST is the nature of supply. The interest on delayed payment is the interest rate supply. Original supply was interest rate, so interest on delayed payment, CGST and SGST is being charged, and rate is 9%. So some of the students, what they take is the rate, the amount of interest on delayed payment into 100 and they divide it by 109. So that will give you a wrong amount, because you have to first of all exclude the entire entire tax amount from that particular interest. So in order to exclude the tax amount, the GST amount, you have to divided by the rate of the entire rate of both CGST and SGST, IGST rate. That means if the rate is 12%, then 112. If rate is 18%, 118. That should be the in the denominator. This is a very common mistake which sometimes students commit, but this should not be committed. Otherwise, it will unnecessarily lead to loss of marks in your case. So when you are attempting any of the computational problems, most important thing is that you should educately support each and every item of your answer through the reasoning, and that reasoning should also, or we call it explanatory notes. So explanatory notes are very important part of your answer because they carry marks. So for every explanatory notes you will have marks. You have to write educate reasoning for treatment of each and every item of your answer. Then, in case of the computational questions, as I already told you, if any information is missing, you have to take the assumption to solve that particular answer, and that assumption should be clearly stated in the answer. All the questions should be properly presented in the examination. This is because presentation matters a lot. This is how you can create an impression on the examiner that yes, you know the provisions, you have elaborated or enumerated them properly. So if it is a straight question where you have to enumerate the provisions, the theory question, then you should underline all your important points. You should put the definitions in the boxes. If it is a computational question, then educate reasoning. Proper reasoning should be given to given supporting your question, main question. So these are the things which we need to keep in mind. If Yogesh is saying that MCQ booklet reasoning is not available, then why, while stuck on particular question, how to solve the question? Yogesh, if you have a doubt, first of all, you have to, as I already told you, that in any of the questions, anywhere throughout your preparation, you should first of all solve the question on your own and then you should check the answer. But in case of the descriptive question, you will get the complete answers or solutions. So you will be able to check your answers step by step, and you can understand that at what step you have made a mistake, and that will be easy for you to determine that yes, this is the point where you need clarity and this is where you have made the mistake. In case of MCQ, yes, that is there, that answer reasoning is not required, reasoning is not provided, and that is because it is not required in the question paper also. But in case you have any doubt in any of the questions, you can write us to ask your query option of the BoS app. You can raise your query through this mobile app, and we will let you know. But then you should first of all, but I would suggest, but first of all, solve the question on your own and try to figure out the point where you have committed the mistake, because this will help you in understanding the provision by you also. You should not straight away jump into the conclusion that yes, I do not know this question. You should try the question once or twice on your own, because if you determine the answer on your own, this increases your thinking capacity. So whenever, in not only in MCQs, in any of the questions, if you are not able to arrive at the correct answer, don't see the solution straight away. Try to solve it once or twice again, so that you are able to determine the area where you have committed the mistake. In question also, this will increase your thinking ability to, because it is not necessary that whatever questions you have done through the practice session, they will come in exam. Some new question can also come in exam. So your thinking capacity has to be developed. You have to develop the application of the provisions. You have to develop clarity in the provisions. So that will help you in developing clarity in the provisions if you solve the questions on your own. Then you have to follow the instructions which are given to you in the examination answer sheet properly. Every question has to be started from a new page, then you have to follow that. If it is given that you have to use particular kind of color of pens, then please follow that. So all the instructions which are given to you, that have to be followed, so that it does not give rise to any misconceptions that yes, if I do not answer the compulsory question, that will be, my answer sheet will not be evaluated, or if I answer all the questions, then what will be evaluated, what will not be evaluated. So don't try to attempt all the questions, because you know that you do not have, particularly in the final examination, you do not have that much time that you attempt all the questions. Attempt those questions which you know the best, and and which are available in the option. The question which you can leave in the option, you should leave that particular question. And for the remaining questions, you should try to attempt them in commensuration with the marks which each question carries. So if a question carries 2 marks, and the same question can be answered in 5 marks also, so do not try to write, because we generally have a tendency or temptation to write more in the examination so that we do not get the marks deducted. But if you write too much, that will definitely, you are taking time from some other question, and that question you could have answered well if you have answered one question, or the question which you are referring, in commensuration with the marks. So don't write too much in any of the questions. The marks which a question carries, accordingly you have to draft your answer. Just give a 30-40 seconds thinking before starting the question, that, and try to organize the things in your mind, that how you are going to attempt that question in the examination. So this is how the time needs to be managed in the examination. And sometimes students ask that how we can score good marks in the examination. So for that purpose, and as I already told you, that this explanatory notes point is very important, that yes, you have to attempt the question thoroughly, and you have to write each and every point. You have to give reasoning for each and every point in the question. Then some other mistakes which the students commit in the examination is, yes, for example, in case of the supply chapter, if you see, the definition of supply is there. It's a very small point, that in definition of supply, definition of family. In case of Schedule 1, the entry says that if we have received any of the, in Schedule 1, it says that if any of the services have been supplied to a distinct person or a related person, then that amounts to a supply of goods or services to a distinct person or related person, even without consideration, amounts to supply. Now, when we see related person includes family. And generally, what we understand from the family is the members of the family. But here there is an important point which generally students miss out. Is this I am telling you just to emphasize on the significance of the definitions, and each and every clause of those definitions in the CGST and SGST Act. So if in case you have done the definition, you have gone through the definition, but you have not done it thoroughly, what blunder or what mistakes you can commit, this example will show you that. In the definition of supply, it expressly provides, not supply, sorry, my mistake, it's family. In the definition of family, it's provided that if it's a person's children and a person's spouse will be his family in any case, but if it is his grandparents, his brother, sister, his parents, then they will be considered his family only when they are wholly or mainly dependent on that particular person. So if that particular person is if it is given in the question that yes, the person's grandparents or some person's brother is a well settled person uh, in this particular city, or it is the services import of services from outside without payment, without consideration, if some services are being imported, that is also included in schedule 1. But that person will be considered related person only when it is he or she is a family member. And for being a family member, for grandparents, parents, brother, sister, in order to be a family member, they need to be wholly or mainly dependent on this person. So if it is mentioned that he is a well settled person, he is earning there, he is not wholly dependent on this particular person for whom we are computing the tax liability, then in that case, that person will not be considered as a family of that person. So this is important that you should, so if you do not know the definition of family properly, this mistake, you are bound to commit this mistake in the exam. You will take all the members of the family equally, and we will not see this condition of being wholly dependent on the person or not. Yogesh is asking if optional question also solve whether when questions are evaluated as per which questions are evaluated. Yogesh, you have to consult the examination department for this, that whether first 5 questions will be evaluated or best 5 will be evaluated, that you have to see. But I would suggest that try attempting only those questions which you know, because your time in the examination is very precious and you have limited time in the exam. So attempt the questions which you know the best, and try attempting devoting your time to those questions only. Okay. Now, similarly, in case of the composition scheme, if we see the composition scheme, it is some, you know, that supplier of notified goods. Now, I'm using the word supplier, it's actually the manufacturer. So composition scheme, some the ineligible suppliers for the composition scheme, there are certain conditions for being eligible for the composition scheme, which is mentioned under section 10. And one of these condition is that the manufacturer of the notified goods will not be eligible for the composition scheme. Now, this type of question can be asked in MCQ also, and it's a very small point which students generally tend to miss out. So this point is that if they mention that if it is mentioned the trader of the notified goods, these notified goods are pan masala, then recently the bricks and bricks of fossil meals, etc. have also been added, pan masala, ice cream, tobacco. All these items are there, aerated waters. So if in any of these the registered person is a supplier and he is a trader, not in supplier in the nature of trader, he is trading in these goods, so then in that case he will not be ineligible for composition supply, because it is only the manufacturer of these notified goods, which I am telling you, only a manufacturer is ineligible for the composition levy. But since we have not done the provision of section, we have not read the provision carefully, so that helps, that leads to an error in this question, and students generally tend to treat the manufacturer and trader of the notified goods at par, and they make both of them ineligible and hence end up losing marks in the question, because this is wrong treatment. Similarly, we know that a person who is engaged in supplying goods which is exempt, which is not leviable to tax, to the which a person who is not who is manufacturing the who is not manufacturing, who is supplying the goods not leviable to tax, not leviable to GST, is not eligible for the composition supply composition levy. So sometimes now here also, when we are saying leviable to tax, the supply should not be leviable to tax in the first place. Now, if in the question it is provided to you that a particular goods, a particular item, taxable goods are there or services are there which have been exempted by way of a notification. Now, when I say exempted by way of a notification, it means that those goods were taxable or those goods were leviable to tax in the first place, but by way of an exemption notification, those goods or those services have been exempted. So since tax is not payable on those services because that or on those goods because they have been exempted by way of a notification. Now these two things are different. Not leviable to tax, that means in the first place they are not included in the charging section itself. For example, the diesel, petrol, they are not leviable to tax. But if I say the education services, so education services are exempted by way of a notification. So they are, though it is an example of goods, but same will apply in case of it's an example of services. In goods and services, in case of composition levy, if the supplier is engaged in supply of goods or services not leviable to tax, then he will be ineligible, but exempted by way of notification, then he will be eligible for composition levy. So this is an important point which you need to remember. Moreover, you need to for revision purpose, one important point is that for revision purpose, the applicability, I have already told you revision tips. For revision in the examination, you know that we have provided you the summary at the end of each of the chapter in the form of the let us recapitulate revisions, and in let us recapitulate the the summary in the form of the tabular presentations, charts, diagrams has been provided to you. So those summaries will help you in revising day before examination. But it is very important that you read through this material at this point of time also, because if you open the study material before the examination and you try to revise through those summaries, they will not be very useful for you. It is very important, whichever book you are referring, you have to refer it at this point of time only. You have to see how you have to revise from this particular material, so that before examination something new is not resorted by you. You should not refer to any new book, any new material. Whatever you have done at present during your revision phase before the start of the examination, those reference books, those materials only you should refer. So study material, we will definitely advise you that all of you should go through the study material, the important points or significant concepts which have been given in the study material. In fact, the summaries, you see the ITC chapter, how the summaries have been given in the complete tabular form, in the form of the diagrams, entire chapter has been summarized. So such a big chapter which everybody finds a very pain in revising, you can do through let us recapitulate section. So this is for the concepts revision. Now the questions. So questions, you should refer the test your knowledge portion given at the test your knowledge is the section where the questions are given to you at the end of each chapter. Those questions you should try to solve at this point of time, or many of you would have done already. So when you had solved those questions and you find that there are some questions where there is some tricky point which is there, so you should mark that question, but that particular tricky point in that particular question, you should mark that question and the point where you find a mistake or you committed a mistake, or you find that some particular point as a difficult point. So you mark that point, and thereafter you should try to summarize the solution or try to summarize the treatment of that particular item, so that when you are referring that particular question during examination, day before examination, you can refer only those points which you find tricky or which you felt that yes, this is a point I can forget before examination. So I have to once again have a glance at it. So all those points you should have a glance at, the significant points, that yes, these are the points which we need to keep in mind while solving the questions in the examination. So those questions became a kind of summary of the questions to you. Not every question you can solve before examination, but the questions which you have ticked, which have a tricky point, which have an important significant point, an important application of any provision. So those questions you should specify, you should mark those questions, and you should attempt those questions you should see those questions, not attempt, I would say, have a glance or at those questions before the examination. Plus statutory update. Again, statutory update comes into play because it is very important publication. Before examination, you need to refer the statutory update. Definitely, you should go through it thoroughly, because in the examination, these questions based on amendments are generally asked from the students, just in order to make them aware of the latest amendments or latest updates of the law, tax law. So you should refer the statutory update. Statutory update is hosted on the website for November 2022 examination. It contains the amendments which have been made from 1st May 2021 to 30th April 2022. So all these amendments all these amendments have been compiled in the form of the statutory update, and they have been given at one place in the website, so you refer those also. This will help you in revising the concepts before exam. And in case some of you, at this point of time I cannot say that you will have time to make the summaries, but I generally suggest that you make summaries of your own. We have provided summaries for your ease, or for your in order to facilitate you. But if you make summaries on your own, then that will help you in clearing that concept, for better clarity of that particular concept. And one advantage which summaries which you have made on your own will have is that you will not have to remember those summaries, which do not have to learn those summaries. While making them itself, you will be able to retain the concept, you will be able to remember that concept, and it will take you very less time in revising those summaries. So at this point of time also, if you can make summaries for one or two chapters also, or some important concepts also, that will help you in understanding the concept before exam, or revising the concept before exam in the least possible time. So before exam, have a proper sleep, have a proper diet also, take care of your health also, so that you perform your best during examination. You have to be very cool and calm before the examination. Generally we tend to keep revising till the time of entering into the examination hall. We have our notes and books in our hands, and we feel that this is the best way to revise. But I would suggest that is not the best way. Please have some cool and calm mind before the examination. You will have to be at peace before the examination in order to perform your best. So before the examination, whatever you have done before leaving your home, that is what is best for you. After leaving your home for the examination hall, you should not have any notes, any papers or anything with you, any supporting lectures or something. Just concentrate on meditation, or you can have meditation or breathing exercises to make you feel calm, and so that you can give your best during those 3 hours. Because you know that sometimes you know a question, and you're not able to focus in the examination. You may end up doing disasters in the examination. So you do not have to panic. Even if you don't know any question, have your calm, do whatever you know, and whatever questions you do not know, you can leave them for the end. Think logically, and you will definitely be able to answer them in some or the other way. You will definitely be able to write something in them. But only thing is that you have to be very composed during the examination. You have to be at peace during the examination, and that you can do only when you do not lead to the things which create anxiety to you. So you have to be at you have to you know do all the studies beforehand only. So that is why this time is there, this revision time is there. And in this revision time, whatever you can do, whatever practice of questions you can do, whatever more questions you can practice, refer to the RTP questions as well as the mock test papers, which will be hosted on the website, as well as they will be conducted on in the center. So after this web series, those mock test papers will be conducted, so you can refer those mock test papers. And once you are prepared, but I would suggest that go for the mock test papers only once you have completed your preparation. Because half-heartedly going for mock test papers will demoralize you to such a level that you will not be able to come out of it. So once you have completed the entire syllabus, there is no hurry of appearing for mock test papers, even if they are being conducted at the centers. Anytime you can give those mock test papers in your home under exam like conditions. That when I say exam like conditions, that means you set a time for 3 hours, you take a printout of the mock test paper, or on your phone you can see the paper, and you do that paper within that stipulated time, sitting at one place with no disturbances. So that will also help you in creating the same conditions which we have in examination, and that type of pressure. So you will be able to know that yes, how much prepared you are for the examination. Same holds good for RTP also. Attempt the RTP questions only when you are prepared fully, then you should go for the RTP questions. So all these things will help you in assessing your preparedness for the exams. So let us see if any other questions are there. Otherwise, we are almost at the end of our session. Yogesh is asking if optional question also solved. Yogesh, I have answered this query of you. I thought it's a new query. So with this, we come to the end of this session. If you have any queries, you may ask. We can wait for 1 or 2 minutes more. And with this, I will say that you make use of the publications which are given to you by the institute. They will help you in preparing for the examination. watch the live coaching classes which are available on the BOS app also. I hope most of you have downloaded the BOS app because it gives you the notification with regard to the latest updates or latest announcements by the institute. So before the examination, social media definitely we advise the students to be away from. But on phone, this BOS app is something which is going to be your friend for the examination. This is going to keep you updated for regarding any latest update which institute is providing you. So you should see your BOS mobile app daily, though you should not see your WhatsApp. Instead of seeing all other updates, see the BOS mobile app till the examination. Keep yourself away from all the negatives, all the disturbances, all the distractions around you. Try to focus on your studies. If you stay away from social media, you will be away from distraction. Try to be in contact with the friends whom you feel create positive vibes in you, who give you positivity. So because positive environment, positivity during the examination, before the examination, and in this period is the most important thing you should have. So try to be in contact with the friends which gives positivity to you, which gives you motivation to study, and keep away from social media, and keep in touch, or you can say in be familiar with the BOS app, the updates and announcements of the BOS app. So with this we come to end of this session. We have no more queries to answer also, and thanks for the patient listening. We tomorrow also this session will be continued for this particular paper. So in case you have any queries, you can join us tomorrow also, and you can ask those queries to us. Thank you so much.